Go see your mother. You were only given one. Go see your mother. And you know that you will never have another. Go see your mother. Go see your mom.
Welcome to Jewish Boy Calls His Mother. I'm your host, Sadia, and this is Mother Ima. Hey, Ima.
Hello, my sweetness.
How's it going?
Baruch Hashem, how was Yantif?
Yantif was good. The last couple of days were nice. I went to the more Litvish shul, but I had a good time. I had a good time nonetheless. So we wanted to talk about...
Even though you went to the Litvish shul, you still had a good time. I love that.
Yeah, I mean, getting older, you stop trying to, I don't know, go too buck wild, if it makes any sense. Like, I don't want to go too crazy or whatnot. Like, I had a good time. I like Simchas Torah. I love it since I was a kid. But I guess the older I'm getting, the less interested I am in like all these crazy wild stuff.
Yeah.
What age did you start doing that?
I still like going to.
Oh, you still like being active and whatnot. I don't know. I'm just losing
in the women's section, there's not too much wild stuff that goes on.
Oh, okay.
I mean,
yeah. No, I understand. We're
just sitting there listening to the singing and the clapping and the guys going wild and.
Did you ever want to do something like more than just that during Simchas Torah, or you were happy with what you had?
I was just well, I remember when I first became from there were a couple women in the women's section that got the women together to really get us dancing.
Yeah.
But I don't know, I got to a point where I just enjoyed sitting there and watching the guys entertain, and guys just going wild and doing stuff and just clapping along and just hearing the rhythm of the music and drinking the alcohol.
Yeah, no, I get that.
Eating the snacks and all that good stuff.
I'm just going to try to dig a little deeper and let me see if I can scratch anything beneath the surface. But was there any moment in time that you wanted to do more, or you never really had that drive or wanting to do anything else on Simchas Torah?
Well, you mean like dancing and?
Well, I mean, it's like what I mean to say is that would you want to go ahead and have a bunch of, get a group of women together and starting to, dance and just really try to be misameach Simchas Torah in your own way, or were you happy with what was given to you?
I was pretty happy with what was given to me, with just the atmosphere there and walking around, talking, meeting new people. There are a lot of you get a chance to meet a lot of new people, Simchas Torah, because you have a lot of people. Like either curiosity seekers that, Jews that are basically non-observant, but that, are curiosity seekers. They want to see, they want to see the festivities in the more observant shuls.
Okay.
There's also people from out of town, a lot of out-of-towners that come from different walks of life. I remember one family in particular, that came to our shul in Florida, and they were Satmar.
Okay.
And they were kind of like, they wanted to move out of the Satmar community. Mm-hmm. They were Satmar. They didn't want to leave their group. They wanted to stay Satmar, but they just wanted to try to find a different Jewish community. And so it was Simchas Torah, and they were visiting and exploring the community. And they came to our shul, and they were really very pleasantly surprised. We were talking to the family, and the first thing that surprised them was how readily they were how friendly people were, and how readily they were accepted by the, by the non-Satmar communities and people, people around them. They were from different, Jewish groups. And they were also pleasantly surprised about how Freilach, the singing and the dancing was. Evidently, I said to them, well, I thought that the Satmars also were, very, very, Freilach and, dancing and everything. He said, no, it's by the Satmars, their simplest Torah celebrations are a little more reserved.
I mean, Chabad has the most, I would say, outgoing celebration of Simchas Torah. Because when I was at the Lifvitz Shul, there was dancing, there was singing, but it was very controlled. It wasn't reserved; it was controlled. They had different. They giving out candy to the kids. They had flags. Everyone enjoyed themselves, but it was more of like a controlled, like is if you told them clapping starts at 12:10 and ends at 12:15, they would do it like to the T. But they had a good time. There was definitely feelings of being Sameach, that when I was there, it's just a different, vibe. That's all. It wasn't nothing up or down. It was just a different vibe. But the thing I really wanted to talk about today, like today's topic, was the idea of self-talk and learning how to talk to yourself positively. And the opening question would be, when you were a teenager, did you ever have negative self-talk? And if so, did you get yourself out of that?
That is a really good question, because I did not need any help in that department. There were plenty of people around me that were out to convince me that I was no good and would never be any good on a daily basis. And
I
I would
understand.
never succeed, no matter how hard I try. And let me see, what more other positive vibes was I raised with? What's going? Oh yes, the words of the pearls of wisdom that I got from my family, from my mother especially, was, what's going to be is going to be, and you can't change it.
Yeah, I'm.
What I
What's
had to work on was getting out of that thinking.
It's
Which
funny
in
you
a
say
way,
that because
I think the Lubavitcher Rebbe, that's what he had a very big challenge doing, getting the Yidden out, especially the European Yidden, out of that thinking, because the people, like in my grandparents' generation, the immigrants that came from Europe were so downtrodden, so browbeaten. They suffered, especially from Russia, and especially Russia and Poland. They suffered centuries of horrible, social and economic discrimination in Europe. Terrible. And so and then they came here and they had discrimination as Jews. They had discrimination as, as immigrants. And so a lot of them just had that very fatalistic attitude towards life, because they didn't want to hope too much, because they were afraid if they would hope that their hopes would be they would be disappointed. So I think they purposely talked themselves into fatalism so they wouldn't be disappointed. And of course, my mother, even though she was raised in America, it's hard to get out of that type of cultural thinking. And I remember the Rebbe talked a lot about simcha. And that's what he was fighting, that attitude. Like they said, also the prevailing attitude when you was during the 40s and 50s was, it's hard to be a Jew. This is schwer zu sein Yid, schwer zu sein Yid. And so the Rebbe was trying to get people out of that mindset to a positive mindset. It's good to be a Jew, and that we can affect changes here.
So when did you start creating a positive outlook in life?
When I was a teenager, actually, when I was a teenager and started to come into, you might say, thinking for myself. And when my mother would start, the diatribe of it's going to be, and you can't, I would go, yes, you can. I don't want to hear that. I would, I fought so much. I wanted to get away. I wanted to get away so badly from that thinking, because that's very dangerous thinking. That keeps you as a victim, and the victim mentality, and you don't want to do that. In fact, I think this Tanya, Rabbi Gordon, I think the Alter Rebbe addresses the idea of depression being a Amalek, that all other emotions we can use as a spring, we could use as we can flip them around to use as motivation, except for depression. Depression, negative thinking, these are to be avoided. These cannot be elevated. These cannot be used for motivation. They will just bring you down.
Yeah. I mean, I growing up, obviously, with your positive attitude helped me a lot. Because I'd be around people who just would constantly talk negatively about themselves and others. And when I first was exposed to that, I was so shocked that I literally became ill, like emotionally and physically ill from this constant negative talk. And it took me a while to like build up, I guess, a backbone against it and just fight it.
Were these,
Um,
were these friends of yours, peers?
yeah,
Mm.
yeah, there was a peer of mine who was very negative constantly about everything and anything. It's very hard when you're hanging out with people and you're spending time with someone and they just have this negative outlook on life. And it's just like, it's like you have like because everyone has their struggles, everyone has their, journey. But for me, and my life, I've done a lot where I've just been like, suck it up, buttercup, move forward. And I
Mhm.
think this idea nowadays to do this kind of self-talk therapy kind of thing
Mhm.
where you're incessantly talking about something negative that happened to you in the past. Like you got to get to a point where you're going to have to get over it and you have to move past it. Um, and you can't let it stop you. And I mean, I was like that too. I had moments where I was, obsessive with the past and negative. And after enough times talking about it, I'm like, I'm just bored of it. I'm just sick of it. I don't want to bring this up anymore. I just want to move on with my life.
I think
And
also
I
what
think
helped.
that
Go ahead. I'm sorry, go ahead. Mhm.
no, you continue.
Also, what helped me was my education. Um, we studied American history. We studied real American history, dates, battles, not the politically correct garbage. We studied real facts, American history, and a lot of American history is the pioneering spirit of people breaking the norm to want to find something better. That's our history basically. The people that came here from from different places, from Europe and from different, but also Asia, different places. These were people that were not happy with the status quo.
Yeah,
That's what. That's why. That's why they came here to begin with. This is the. This is what's so wonderful is that this is the American psyche. The idea of the pioneer who breaks ranks, and to forge ahead and to do something innovative. And in all that was really that type of philosophy when I was especially in high school, was really pushed. I mean, people who were innovators, revolutionaries, that that was really emphasized to us.
yeah, yeah, and I think it's just like you know having this determination when it comes to a lot of this negativity and just not letting it be something that's going to hold you back. And I think a lot of people hold themselves back because they're scared, they're worried, have one feeling or another. And this positive talk is something that really helps, you know, the ability to move forward. But some people just don't want that. They don't want to feel that. They want to be stuck in their own ways, and it's very frustrating to deal with that.
I think you hit the head on when you said frightened. People are, it's interesting how people become accustomed to certain things and are, you like, they're accustomed to it, they're comfortable with it, no matter how negative it might be. I remember talking to people who are social workers who were working with removing children from really horribly abusive homes. And you would fight so hard in the courts with everybody, the system basically, to get this kid out of this horribly, even dangerous home environment. And they would work so hard to place them with really good foster families. The people who volunteer to become foster families, first of all, even though they get a stipend from the government, it's not enough. People who are doing this are really doing this out of the goodness of their heart and because they really want to make a difference in a child's life. And they would place them with really good foster homes. And then a couple of days later, the foster parents would call in a panic saying that the kid disappeared. And these friends of mine who were social workers told me, oh, they knew exactly where to find this kid back home. The kid had run away. And even though the new environment was better, they were used, the cruel, horrible environment they had come from was something they were used to and that they were unfortunately comfortable with.
Yeah. I mean, I've been in situations like that where it's just like I'm so used to people acting a certain way towards me, or being in a situation, typically, how someone's being treated. And because I'm so used to it, I kind of have this acceptance of like, oh, that's just, whatever. And then like eventually gets to the point where I'm like, no, I'm not doing that, not putting up with that anymore. I'm not dealing with that. Which is kind of the other thing where it's just like, I remember, who was I speaking to? I think I was speaking to somebody, and I was having this conversation with them where um I was talking about like, kids being picked on in school.
Oh,
And
yeah.
they gave the same advice you did, where it's like, just learn to ignore it. And I responded like, if they learn to ignore it, what they're going to do is accept the fact that that's the way they should be treated, and then the rest of their lives are going to be put down, and they're going to be okay with it. And they like had
Mhm.
this like aha moment of like, oh, yeah, that's a terrible piece of advice to give. Because ignoring the problem doesn't make it go
Mhm.
away, it just makes you complacent.
That's a very good point. And the problem, I think we touched on this before with bullies, is that the only thing that works with these bullies is, I hate to say it, is beating the living daylights out of them. But they know, these bullies know that if you do that, you're the one that's going to be in trouble. And they know, these bullies, they know no one can really do anything to really stop them because, that was what you would have to do. I ran into, on YouTube, this lady. She's got this very heavy Southern accent. I think she's like a redneck comedian,
Mhm.
and she talked about um, having um, this girl who was bullying her, and actually took her glasses and broke them. And when she came home, she said, um, she said her father, when she told her father what happened, she said he took a belt to her, which I can relate to. And he told her that he says, tomorrow you're to go to school, you're to go up to this girl, you're to tell her, hey, you have a problem with me, and you're to bust her right in the mouth. He says, and if I don't get a call from the principal that that you did that, when you come home, I'm going to whip you again. So she said that's exactly what she did. And of course, she winds up in the principal's office. And the girl who she smacked is there holding an ice pack against her face, and her mother's there. And so the principal, of course, calls her father, and the father comes right in, and first of all, he gives the daughter a good feel, like a yashikoch, and the mother of the bully is shocked, and starts to yell at them, and he says to her, you say one more word, I'm going to smack you too. And he goes over to his daughter, puts his arm around her, and the principal says, she's suspended for 2 days. So the father smiles at her and says, "Come on, honey, let's go to Dairy Queen."
It's funny because it's just like that didn't happen to me. It was every single time I got made fun of, I was told to ignore it. And when I finally hit the kid, I'd get in trouble. And you
Yeah,
guys would get all upset with me. And I'm like,
yeah.
what am I supposed to do?
I know
And then I started,
I know. The thing is, we didn't want to see you get in trouble. I didn't want to see you being suspended or you getting in trouble or anything. And I know it's a very touchy situation because it's like, on one hand, unfortunately, it's the only thing that works. But on the other hand, if you do that, you're going to get in trouble. Well, you know what your brother did with those
I
bullies?
know.
Yeah, the knapsack. Do we go into that in our
We've
podcast?
talked about that. We've talked about it before.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty good.
Yeah.
Maybe for new
Yeah,
listeners, we should review. And what happened was these bullies were constantly teasing your brother and on his case and really saying nasty stuff and whatever. And he stayed calm. He didn't lose his cool because he didn't want to get suspended. What he did, though, very quietly after school, he gathered their knapsacks when they weren't looking. He climbed to the top of the tree and hung the knapsacks on the top branches and scurried down. So one of the fathers called your father to complain. Well, your father says to this other father, "My son knows karate and you're lucky my son didn't kill your brat."
Yeah. I don't know. It's very frustrating because just like you're basically the schools create a bunch of passive people and just drones, really. I find it the school systems have done nothing but create drones. Yes, people trying to just, memorize and spit out. The critical thinking is almost out the window. Um, Out of curiosity, school today compared to when you were in school, what were the pros and cons of when you were in school?
I'll tell you the truth. I don't know what's going on in the public school system other than what I hear on the news.
Mm,
Um, and well, there is a big change, obviously. I mean, which is why the country, elected a conservative president, because a lot of people have gotten to the point where they don't like this PC stuff. They don't like this, whatever the transgender thing, whatever gay rights. They're finished with it. They really are. They wanna go back to regular normalcy. I think basically schools need to do is we need to concentrate. Go back. They say go back to the 3 R's: read and write, arithmetic. We really need to concentrate on spelling, language arts skills, actual mathematics. I was very irritated when one of your sisters was in school. I don't mind using a calculator for higher mathematics, like when you're going into the millions or the billions or trillions, whatever. In my day, a calculator would have been considered cheating. It would have been confiscated, and we would have been given an F. We were expected to do things in our mind, in our head. So one day, your sister brings home a math assignment where the teacher wants her to use the calculator. And I'm looking at the problems, and these are simple, regular 2-digit, or 1-digit division problems that basic knowledge of the multiplication table is all you need to solve them. It's very simple. It's like, 36 divided by 6, that type of thing. So I said to her, I felt that she needed to work on her multiplication tables and multiplication skills. So I said to her, you're not using the calculator for this. You're going to use your head. And I sat, and she really worked very hard. She thought, and she really succeeded. I mean, she was able to answer every question without the calculator, using it in her head. She comes back from school the next day, devastated. She goes, I was so proud of myself. I told the teacher, hey, my mother made me do this assignment from my head. And the teacher, instead of being happy, yelled at her, I wanted you to use your calculator. So I called the head of the math department and complained and told her about the situation. And I said, what are you doing here? What are you trying to do? Trying to discourage these kids from thinking? What are you trying to do? And the math, the head of the math department said that she would talk to this math teacher about it. This concerns me that, kids are not using their head for real skills, putting together a coherent sentence, knowing how to spell, basic words, basic rules of grammar. I remember the first time I sent a text message to one of your sisters. She said, "Wow." She goes, "Ema, I love your text messages. They're so clear. They're so easy to understand." And I said, "What do you think good spelling and good grammar is supposed to do?"
Yeah. Yeah, no, you're right. I kind of, again, like I'm not involved with schooling right now, but I started seeing some stuff where it was just like they had this new math perspective, a new math style of solving problems, and it just seems really convoluted and over the
Oh,
top, where it's just
every
like,
every time I hear new math, I cringe, because I was in a situation where I had to teach it to fourth graders. It was so horribly complicated beyond what was necessary. I just totally trashed it and taught regular digital facts. Regular
yeah,
facts. In fact, I called it the fourth. I put it to music a little bit. I called it the family of facts. Like I remember 11 minus 7. I put it to a song. Let me see. 4 plus 7 equals 11. 7 plus 4. 11 minus 7 equals 4. Who could ask for any more? Well, 11, no, something like that. 11 minus 7 equals 4, whatever. I put it tried to put it to music, but I actually made actual families of real solid facts for the kids to memorize. And that did it. They were able to learn much better after that. Regular old fashioned memorizing math facts.
yeah. I mean, again, it's just like the other thing is I'm thinking about after I graduated high school. Sorry, clearing my throat. After I graduated high school, I thought to myself, okay, I'm done dealing with this system of school that I hated so much, and the frustrations I had with the rules, the regulations, all these things over the top, just reputation, etc. Like name it. It was all those problems. Like I'm done. And now, God willing, my child's gonna start going into school, and I'm thinking, I got to deal with this again.
Oh, no.
I have to deal with these idiot people telling me what to do because my son said, "Oh, he used a horrible word. He said stupid, and we don't allow that here, so he's kicked out and not allowed to come back ever again." Like I'm not even. I don't know if I'm being even exaggerative with that concept
Mm-hmm.
of just like they're going to be super sensitive about everything. I have to like basically train my kid to be a drone, watch him become a total just cog in the machine. I hope he has individuality and thinks for himself and becomes a person. But it's just like they're not. It's it's frustrating because see I don't see schools helping kids grow, but just helping them learn how to work a system.
I think
You know,
that's very insightful of you. That's probably true. Yeah.
and I'm kind of frustrated. Like, what do I make them go to homeschooling, and then it just becomes a whole other story? Or I make them go through the system that I am familiar with, so I know how to navigate it, so I can teach them how to navigate it and figure out what to do. You know, and it's just
Well,
I
you'd be
find it very
surprised.
frustrating.
Well, you'd be surprised how many parents, have opted for the homeschooling system because for those very reasons. Mm.
Yeah,
But interesting. But people, I don't know, that individualistic spirit that humans have, usually, it's like we've all seen trees grow through concrete.
Yeah.
sidewalks. We've seen that, you know, and it's like trees and grass growing through concrete, going to the sidewalk. The, you know, the individual independent spirit does sprout, does come out one way or the other, but it does.
I understand that. I know. And it's just, this is the struggles, because I'm thinking of the struggles that I went through when I was there, when I was in school, where I wasn't allowed to be myself or express myself the way I wanted because of all the rules and regulations. And I had to figure out and learn and adapt and cope. And even then, it was just like the schedule were always so intense and the learning was always very intense. And it was very frustrating to just to get a day off. Um, it's just like it's it's very annoying when I remember I had to fight the whole system. In 11th grade, I didn't want to go ahead and spend Sunday school till 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I wanted to leave at 12:30.
Mm-hmm.
And the school, eventually cut my class slack and let me and my class leave at 12:30, but everyone else stayed till 1:30, 2 o'clock, and it just wound up being where after I left, everyone 2 o'clock, no offense or buts. And I'm like, what options do I have that I want to send my kid to school, but I don't want them to be in Sunday school all the time. I want to spend time with my child.
Mm-hmm.
And it's frustrating because if I'm going to be the one to look at my options, it's just, I just don't see all the options that fit what I want.
Hmm. All I can say is that I've noticed in general there seem to be um, Jewish schools of different persuasions
Yeah.
springing up all over the place. And I'm sure by the time, your child would start school, you never know what new options there might be at that time, especially with the way that the Jewish population in Baltimore is increasing.
I understand that. I know.
So
But then again, the
I
problem,
wouldn't worry about it at this point. I
well,
really,
I know it's nothing to worry about, but I'm going to throw you another curveball.
oh no.
The more established schools have higher probabilities of of scholarships that will work with you comparatively to the new age schools that have the rules you want, but the lack of funding that can help you.
Yeah,
So
that is a problem.
that is the problem. It's not the lack of schools, it's the lack of funding, where you might be able to be like, we can only afford this school, which is psychopathic, but there's nothing I can do about it. I have to just teach my son to just grin and bear this. And hopefully during the summer months, we'll do other things. And maybe I'll speak to the principal or whatever, and we can figure out a deal and work something out. But I know I'm future tripping at this point. Like, who knows what's going to happen?
Yeah.
But it's just a thought that's crossed my mind now that I'm a parent, and now that I'm thinking of like, well, what am I going to deal with?
Start saving your money.
Oh, yeah, it's another story. I'll tell you later.
Actually,
but
I wanted to branch into a different topic, which is going to be a little funnier.
sure, we got 6 minutes left.
Okay. Funny story. The topic of like sublimating a bad habit, to turn it over to make it good. You know what I mean? Like, okay. Well, anyway, so I heard a really funny story about there was this girl who unfortunately she's a compulsive liar. It's a real she has real mental problems, and she's a compulsive liar. And as a result, she's been fired from a number of jobs. This was a true story. So she gets a job, at like a Halloween type job in this historical site, telling actual documented ghost stories about this particular historical site. So they give her the paper, and she's looking over these stories that they want her as a tour guide to tell the groups. And she goes, these ghost stories are so darn boring. And she has an idea. Being a compulsive liar, she puts together her own stories, but they're fantastic. They are much better than these boring ghost stories that they gave her. So, needless to say, they call her into the office. They said, you are not supposed to deviate from the stories we gave you because these are actual documented historical stories. But she says, yeah, but my stories are a lot more exciting. They fired her anyway. So I said to this woman who knows her, hey, why don't you go to her and tell her she could probably make a fantastic fiction writer.
Awesome. Yeah, no, I definitely agree with that about flipping the script and finding the positive. It's just I have this method to my madness where I have to accept the possibility of negativity in order to think more positively. Where it's like a lot of times when I think positively, I get the cynical part of me where it's like, oh, really? Is that really going to happen? What if blah, blah, blah happens? But if I have a solution to the negativity, I can think more clearly positively. I'm like, oh, it's going to be fine because if it's negative, whatever, it's going to be okay because I already thought that process out. You know what I mean? Am I making sense?
Um,
You have to understand that what you don't understand, you won't understand. Do you understand? It's like this. You know, I'll break it down really simply.
Yes. Sounds like a physics formula.
When someone is thinking positively,
right,
are they pushing down their negative thoughts, or they're bringing up their positive thoughts? Like a lot of times, at least for me, when it comes to positive thinking, you know, a lot of times my negative thoughts pop up and I need to address them because if I don't, then they're always going to linger in the background. You know what I mean?
There's a Hasidic idea that negative thoughts are really Yetzer Hara.
I understand that,
and that you should drive them away, ignore them, like get rid of them.
Well, it's not incessant negative thoughts are Yetzer Hara. That's what it is. It's incessant. If the thought that's negative is constantly there knocking on your door, then that's a sign that it's a Yetzer Hara. If it's a negative thought that just appears but like goes away and doesn't come back, that's a real concern. Am I making sense to you? It has to do with the thought process of understanding the Yetzer Hara and Yetzer Tov.
Okay, the difference between an actual negative thought and seeing an obstacle that might prove to be a challenge in you achieving your goal. It would be the same thing as driving along the street and you're listening to the traffic report on the radio and they're telling you to avoid a certain area because there's a traffic jam or an accident, whatever. And so, of course, you're going to avoid that area. And so, like, if you're trying to accomplish a certain goal and you see that there might be something that could be an obstacle, so it's like what you're doing is, it's not negative thought. You're actually trying to plan for solving that obstacle.
So that therefore the negative thought, so good. So we're all on the same page then. That negative thought is usually incessant with no. I understand. I'm agreeing with you. I'm just rewording it and reframing it. So it's like negative thoughts that negative thoughts that can be turned into positive thoughts are reality. Negative thoughts that are just incessant is not real and just ignore them. And what that means is it has to do with like the anxiety and the panic people have.
Ooh, yeah.
And quieting those negative thoughts.
Whenever I hear the word anxiety, I start to actually feel anxiety.
Yeah, so that's a different story. That has to do with really understanding what is negative and what is just hidden or revealed good. And that's what, a lot of times people have to sift through and figure out. All right. Love you, Ma. Have a wonderful night. I'll see you some other time.
Have a great Shabbos. Love you.
All right. Love you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
That's another episode of Jewish Boy Calls His Mother. Thanks for listening to us kvetch, reminisce, and of course, get a little motherly advice along the way. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share with your favorite Jewish mother or anyone who needs a little guilt in their life.
Got a story, question, or just want to say hi? Send us a message. I'd love to hear from you. Until next time, call your mother. She worries.